Hi, good evening. I'm Lonnie Stonich, the Executive Director of FAN. We're a nonprofit that presents programming exploring human development across the lifespan. I am so excited to welcome you to tonight's conversation between Naomi Watts and Heidi Stevens. Thanks for joining us. FAN's YouTube channel has an archive of over 300 videos of past events, so be sure to subscribe to the channel to get updates when new recordings are posted. And now for some introductions. Naomi Watts is a renowned actor and producer. She has Academy Award nominations for her performances in 21 Grams and The Impossible, and is known for starring in critically acclaimed projects such as Mulholland Drive, King Kong, and more recently, Feud, Capote versus the Swans, for which she received a Primetime Emmy Award nomination. She is the founder and chief creative officer of Stripes Beauty, a company dedicated to raising menopause awareness and providing women with education, community, and solutions for a holistic approach to menopause. Joining her is Heidi Stevens, a Chicago-based writer and the creative director of Parent Nation, an initiative of the University of Chicago's TMW Center for Early Learning and Public Health, which works to provide parents, caregivers, and communities the knowledge and tools to optimize foundational brain development in all children. Prior to joining the University of Chicago, Heidi worked at the Chicago Tribune for 23 years, where she wrote a daily column called Balancing Act, which is now a nationally syndicated weekly column. Heidi has served on the FAN Board of Directors since September 2021, and we are lucky to have her. Let's now welcome Naomi Watts and Heidi Stevens to FAN.
Thanks, Lonnie. Hi, Naomi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Very
Good.
good.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and congratulations on hitting the New York Times bestseller list on your debut week. That was fast.
I cannot believe it. I'm very, very grateful, and it shows there's a real thirst for this information. And I really knew that this was the book I needed in my late 30s when I was told I was close to menopause and knew nothing about it. So I think we've come a long way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks to folks like you who take us there. Let's go back to that moment. There you were at age 36, hearing from your doctor that you were entering menopause just as you were trying to start a family. So, talk about what that left you feeling in addition to shocked.
Yeah, I was lonely and scared, and yeah, the collision of those two pieces of news all at once. I yeah, I left the office, the doctor's office in tears, called my mother right away, and said, and I did remember that she had told me she went into menopause at 45, but I didn't know that she had a whole slew of symptoms and that went on for years and years. I just knew that she went into menopause at 45.
Yeah,
So I said, "Why didn't you tell me more?" And she said, "Well, these were the conversations I never had with you because my mother never had them with me."
yeah,
So it was just speaking to that code of silence that somehow everyone agreed upon, despite the fact that they were probably suffering. Um,
right.
and I obviously I felt like I had to prioritize my fertility, because I wanted so badly to be a mother, and but I wasn't a candidate for IVF. I tried Clomid, I tried IUIs, I tried all kinds of things. Mercifully, and I do go into it deeper in the book,
Yeah,
mercifully, I was able to have two children back to back. And right after that, after I stopped breastfeeding my second child, I went into hardcore symptoms. But
wow.
I had no clue that, and but yet there were, now that I know about it more, I look
Mhm.
back and I know that there were symptoms showing themselves way before that doctor said, your blood work is suggesting that you're close to menopause at 36.
Yeah, symptoms that often get written off as being something else or nothing to
Yeah,
worry
and
about, or
even real obvious ones like night sweats. I
yeah,
was doing, medical forms, which I have to do for every film that I start or TV show. You get those list of
sure.
questions. Night sweats is always one of them, and I would tick that for years and years. And
Yeah.
it was never, it was only ever chalked up to, oh, it's probably an allergy or stress or
Anxiety. Yeah.
anxiety or something, or maybe
Mhm.
PMS or something. But
Yeah. Well, I think so many women listening right now can relate to some part of that story, and yet I think that in the industry that you're in, there's probably an extra layer, I would say, of pressure. You were even told at one point that you would never work again if you admitted being menopausal or even perimenopausal. Has that culture changed since then, or are you just sort of charging ahead and talking
no,
about it anyway?
I do think it has changed. I mean, you can just look at the list of films this year that have been considered for awards, led by women, great stories led by women in their 50s, sometimes sexual stories, sometimes stories about aging specifically.
Mhm.
Nicole Kidman, Demi Moore, Pamela
Yeah.
Anderson, there's a whole slew of them.
Yeah.
So that is very encouraging, but it's for me, it was a very risky thing to sort of
Mhm.
announce to the industry. And I thought, oh God, this could be career suicide.
Right.
And certainly because I entered into a career per se quite late. I was in my
Mhm.
early 30s when I had my real launch. I was a jobbing actor before that, and big gaps in between. But with Mulholland Drive, I now started getting calls, and I remember back then I was told from multiple people that I better get going. I better put my foot on the gas because it was all going to be over at 40.
Wow.
And that just
Yeah.
made no sense to me. Why? I mean, women, women's stories matter at every single age. Why?
Of
What's
course they do.
the logic in that? And I was given some nasty phrase to to
I know the phrase.
you know the phrase.
We probably all do. Yeah, we can leave it unspoken. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Okay, before we launch into real specifics, and I know that I'm certainly eager to, I have a feeling people listening are too, can we just start by making sure we even all understand what menopause is, right? Because like as your doctor explained it to you, menopause technically is a single day, right? So maybe give us a working,
Yeah, you
like
get a
up to date.
menopause birthday.
Yeah, right.
It's a
Uh,
single day. It's basically because there's no real actual defining test of what
right.
if you're in it or out of it or past it. Um, so yeah, they say you have to have gone 1 full year without menstruating. So if you
Okay.
start your period back up again on the 11th month, you're still technically in perimenopause.
Okay.
So, and that menopause day comes 12 months after the last day of your last period. And then technically you're postmenopause after that day. Um,
Okay.
but it's all menopausal. I mean, the
Right.
symptoms, I am well beyond my last menopause birth.
Last period.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I'm still experiencing symptoms, even with treatment, to this day, and
Yeah.
I haven't had a menstruation in over a decade.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I think that's actually really important to just kind of level set for this conversation. In part because when you stop getting your period can be based on all sorts of things, right? If you have an IUD, if you're on the
Yeah.
pill that eliminates periods, any number of reasons. And also to your point, there's not really a test you can go take, right? I know some women say like, oh, I should go get my blood work done and find out if I'm in menopause or if I'm
Yeah.
postmenopause or if I'm in
The blood work,
perimenopause, but there's not.
it can be an indicator, and that certainly was what my doctor was looking at that day when I was saying, why aren't I getting pregnant? And he
Yeah.
showed that my follicle stimulating hormone, my FSH level, was suggesting that I was close to menopause. He then said, how have your periods been? And then I said, well, they've been kind of light and close together. And he went, well, that's also another indicator. So that it's
Mhm.
like it can be a few different things. And then he would
Yeah.
talk to me about, have you have had any night sweats? yes, I've been having them for years. And then I realized migraines, I'd been having those for a long time, excruciating migraines, not knowing that they were hormone related.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's no one defining test, but it's a selection of these things.
Sort of piecing together symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it feels to me like women have sort of two things working against us around menopause, right? One is the stigma around talking about it, like we mentioned earlier, which makes it difficult to ask for and locate the help we need. And then the second thing is the lack of consensus around the best way to help women through it, which again makes it difficult to ask for and locate the help you need. So I wonder, as you were sitting down to write a book helping women navigate menopause, how do you even approach a topic with so much uncertainty around it, so much stigma around talking about it, and so much variation in expert guidance? Like how did you go into the project with knowing those
Well,
challenges?
I knew the things that were affecting me during
Mm-hmm.
that time, and chances are, even though menopause is not a one size fits all, it hits people in very different ways. Some people sail through without barely a symptom. Some have, a whole multitude of them. And so I really just thought this is important for me to share my story, and the chances are that people will tap into some of it at least.
Mm-hmm.
And it will reflect what they're going through and help them. It was obviously very important for me to speak to doctors who specialize in this area, along with, other women's stories and my own. And it meant getting very, very personal. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
go to a point where I can't even believe I shared that myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I really just want to destigmatize it and humanize it and make other people's suffering more like take it away somehow. If it feels healing to be a part of creating some change, like this is what I would have wanted myself. Um,
Yes.
at that time, and I didn't have
Yeah.
it. I mean, I even sat
Yeah.
down in front of a friend in my early 40s and said, there should be some book,
Mm-hmm.
that is, telling you this is not the end. This is a time to, you know, yes, organize and educate but like I don't want to feel this scared and lonely. It just,
Mm-hmm.
it should be like this is I'm still desirous. I still have sex, and I still want
Mm-hmm.
to do. I still have energy. I still want you know to try new things and take
Yep.
risks. And
Yep.
so I wanted the book to provide that level of comfort
Mm-hmm.
and the facts, the information from the experts, but
Mm-hmm.
and relief, and also some humor,
Yeah.
and obviously
Yeah.
some hope as well.
Yeah. You're firing on all those cylinders. It really worked. It really did. I think you mentioned this. So many women in the book, like so many women I know, don't really get guidance from their doctors. I mean, we're sort of throwing menopause experts around, as a phrase tonight, but I guess I wasn't shocked, although I probably would say I was dismayed to read in your book that only 20% of OBGYNs are trained in menopause. I feel like that number should be a little closer to like 100%,
Yeah. When you
right? Why,
realize
why wouldn't it be 100%?
yeah, when 50% of the population are going to go through it, why
Well,
shouldn't?
they're OBGYNs,
Yeah,
so wouldn't
exactly.
100% of their patient
Yeah,
population be going through it? Like, I mean, about,
exactly. Exactly. It's mind-boggling.
yeah,
It really, the shift and change needed to happen so badly. Yeah, and I've spoken to some of these doctors, and they even were seeking it out. They
yeah,
they wanted to
in
spend
in
more
medical
time.
school.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And they were told they only needed like a few hours in their entire residency on this subject, when menopause can lead to so many other health issues if you don't
Yeah.
get the right kind of treatment.
Right.
You know, like let's just say the loss of sleep. I mean, sure, we can take a sleeping pill that can be a short-term fix, but you know, if you're drenched in sweat and you're you know, fueled on only 4.5 hours sleep every single day, you know, you forget your words, you're in a meeting,
Mhm.
you feel anxious and like you've blown the
Mhm.
whole thing, and that can lead to depression and anxiety, and you know, women can leave their jobs because of it.
Right. Well, and all of it needlessly, right? Because I mean, the solutions are out there. It's just a matter of pointing people toward them. And this is another part of the book that honestly kind of stopped me in my tracks, because you wrote the line, could it be that one reason for the silence around menopause is how women feel like things are just supposed to hurt?
Yeah, I mean,
All of the ways that that applies. But I mean, we can stay on menopause because that's what we should be talking about. But like that stopped me in my tracks.
yeah, I think we have our cycles every month to remind us that their pain is there sometimes, and we just have to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we deal with it. We're programmed to
Mm-hmm.
tolerate pain, and you know, grin and bear it, suck it up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that gets exhausting after a certain time. And when you get to the point where if you're having extreme symptoms or even slightly problematic or, you know, just annoying symptoms, there is
Right.
treatment available. And
Yeah.
part of the treatment is just being able to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's half the solve in a way, just being able to talk to your friends now for the first time, I think. You know, because our mums not only didn't speak to us about it, they didn't talk to their friends, and they weren't getting help at the
Right.
doctors, or when or
Right.
they were for a period of time, and then the bad studies took place, and then the bad media release, and so you know, HRT became like this scary thing that was going to cause all kinds of issues. So you know,
Yeah, let's dive into that for a little bit, because that is really one of the biggest debates and decisions around menopause, is whether to use hormone replacement therapy, which I think started to become common in the 60s, right? And was pretty prevalent in the 90s. And then, boom, this 2002 press conference announcing the end of the Women's Health Initiative's long term hormone replacement therapy study. So that was more than 20 years ago, but we're still, here in 2025, sorting out what's safe,
yeah.
what's not, what was overblown, what was understudied. So do I have that timeline correct, and
Have
fill
it
in the
all
gaps there?
exactly right. And yeah, I mean, whenever I get asked about HRT specifically, I, you know, like to remind people I'm not a doctor, I'm just an
Mm-hmm.
actor. I've not even really played doctors, maybe a nurse. Um, but
Interviewed a bunch of them though.
yeah.
Interviewed a bunch of them for the book though.
What's that? I interviewed, I
Yeah.
speak to so many doctors.
Yeah.
They're, you know, all there who specialize, you know, whether it's hormones or oncology or, you know, OBGYNs, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
The, I devote 2 chapters to HRT, and
Mm-hmm.
I went through it over and over and over again, because there is still, like you said, a lack of alignment, and things are still under debate about, you know, the benefits of HRT. Um, but yes, I think what we need to have access to is a conversation with our doctor. um, I think we need to go in prepared, and that means reading up. We have to be our own advocates here, reading up on it. There's a great article by Susan Dominus in the New York Times a couple of years ago saying the title is Women Have Been Misled. And it goes very granular on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Study
Mm-hmm.
I would say read that article, take it into your doctor, have
Mm-hmm.
your questions prepared, have your symptoms prepared, talk about your medical history, your family's medical history, and ask for what your options are.
Mm-hmm.
And at a minimum, they should give you the conversation of,
Mm-hmm.
based on all of the information you're coming in with.
Mm-hmm.
And if they gatekeep, that is when, if they won't even entertain the conversation or explain why, that is when I say, then maybe it's not the right provider for you.
Sure. Uh, Talk a little bit about some of the other options. I know that experience you're conjuring is a common one. I mean, I know women go in and armed with information, armed with questions, still get dismissed or sort of gaslit or sidelined by their providers. So how do you feel about like a MIDI Health or one of those sites where you go and have an online telehealth appointment? A lot of them take insurance, and you see a menopause specialist. It's not the person who delivered your babies. It's not the person who has checked your blood pressure for the last 12 years in a row. It's a stranger. But what's the latest
If
guidance
you've got
on sites
access
like
to
those?
them, I think if you've got access to them, I think they're great. I mean,
Okay.
you mentioned one, the MIDI Health, HerMD, Evernow, Alloy. There's a whole slew of them that are really, really great. And I talk to a lot of the doctors in the book. So I definitely think they're worth looking into.
Okay. So if women are feeling like they're just not getting anywhere with their general practitioner, you think that's a good way to
Yeah,
go? Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Good. I think one of the most common misconceptions that I hear about hormone therapy is how long you can stay on it, when you should start, and then how long you can stay on. I had a friend the other day say, you can only stay on it for 2 years, so I don't know which 2 years to pick. So I was relieved to see some guidance on that in your book, including your current doctor who said at age 70 that she's never going to stop using estrogen. She's on it for life. So can you talk a little bit about when you can and should start hormone therapy, and then how long you can and should stay on it? Again, acknowledging that you're not a doctor, but based
Yes,
on the
yeah.
doctors you interviewed.
Yeah, I have to keep saying that, but
Yeah.
I don't want to get into trouble. But yeah, it's my understanding that it's safe for you to go on it, the earlier the better, while you're in perimenopause. And again, there's different theories about how long. Some people say, oh, it should only be, not more than 10 to 15 years, but lots of people disagree with that. And they also say not more than 10 or 15 years after your last period, should you start. But then I've also got a friend who went on it, who was, way beyond 65. So it really, again, is up to you and your doctor to have that conversation. And let's make sure that you trust your doctor, and you can be aligned on that.
Yeah, because different risk factors that run in your family or that you've already lived through, right? If you are a cancer survivor, for example, that's going to change the metrics by which you decide if hormone therapy is a safe option for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I know we could spend the whole conversation on hormone therapy, but I do think my takeaway from the book, and correct me if this is wrong, that it's safe to say that bottom line, the latest science, in spite of that 2002 press conference scare, the latest science shows that for most women with kind of moderate to severe menopause symptoms, the risks of hormone therapy are outweighed by the benefits, which doesn't mean you should automatically go on it. It also doesn't mean you should automatically dismiss it, right? It's usually benefits outweigh the risks.
Yeah. And again, there's still people discussing, debating whether, what those benefits truly are. So there's risk benefit with every single medication we take. So again, I think a lengthy conversation with your doctor, do the research for yourself online. I mean, don't Google too much. Just because that can be a slippery slope.
Right.
But there are good sources available. Look, go with the Menopause Society, the NAMS. That's a great place to start as well.
Yeah. Are you comfortable putting yourself out there right now as an example of sort of what you tried, are doing that's working or not working?
Yeah.
I know you go into it in the book.
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Okay.
I much rather talk about that than try and figure out what's safe for everyone else.
Sure.
Yes, I trial and error. I've tried almost every single delivery method there is, and I've changed doses.
Of estrogen or of
Yeah, estrogen. Yeah.
okay.
I started with a spray, and then I moved to a patch, like half a patch, and then or even a quarter, I think I started on, and then I went to half, and then I went to a full. There's a very funny story in there about a patch moment, trying to get rid of a patch when I met.
I remember.
Yes.
With your husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I went on the pill. They say the pill is the least safest one because of blood clots, and it goes through your liver. And then I've even tried the ring, and now I'm on the gel.
Okay. And you apply the gel daily.
I apply the gel daily, and I must
Okay.
say, I kind of miss the patch just because I forget to do the gel every single day.
Okay. And what does it alleviate?
So, I would say night sweats. I've got those under control. Every now and again, I have one. Migraines. It's not a silver bullet. That's what I will say. It's not going to solve everything, but it certainly helped me with certain things. Mood, definitely moods, energy. Yeah, I mean, I still get my memory blips, and I can still be in a situation where I cannot remember somebody's name or a title of something, but I see that amongst my peers. We just do it. It's literally like that person, that one, the one.
Right.
We can go on like that for 30 minutes.
Yeah, playing mental Pictionary.
Yes.
Sounds
Or
like, looks
I
like,
myself,
sounds like.
yeah. I know. And
Yeah.
my husband's always teasing me because I start acting,
Right.
miming.
Charades. Right. The movie.
Yeah, I was driving.
Right.
That woman who was, she was pregnant. Anyway, and I find myself going into the fridge. What was I here for? What did I come here for? Or in the pantry or something like that. Those moments still
Right.
come. But I would just say just more even mood and energy.
Okay. How about joint pain? I know a lot of women, including myself, have a lot of joint pain around menopause. Does estrogen help with that?
Yeah, I think so. And bone health. Yeah. I'm osteoporosis runs in my family, so I have to be really into the weightlifting, now, which is the most boring kind of exercise, but
Right.
I need to really fight hard to keep my muscle.
Yeah.
And that needs to protect my bones. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
love that.
I've been on it for so long now that
Yeah.
I can't imagine what life would be like without it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be a bit afraid.
So you think you'll stay on
I
it?
think I'll stay. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I love that you devote full chapters of the book to changes in our appearance, changes in our sex lives, changes during menopause that I think would be easy and are easy sometimes for women to kind of dismiss as frivolous concerns, right? They're not life or death, but there's certainly quality of life and should be prioritized. So I appreciate how much real estate you devoted to those other topics, and I wonder if you could talk about the decision to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like none of this is frivolous. We're going through
Mm-hmm.
a lot at this point in our lives, whether it's, the pressures of an emptying nest or you're already grieving about that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe uh, problems within the marriage or high pressures at work or, all of these things or ailing parents, that these things happen at once. So it's a lot. And then to have the cruel trickery of menopause symptoms, um, not sleeping, mood swings, forgetfulness, all of that. It's a lot. So you need to feel your best. And sometimes that's about how your skin looks or what you're wearing or whatever you need to support your quality of life and optimize your health, obviously, then that's what I kind of wanted to speak to.
Yeah. What are some things that you found out either through personal experience or through your interviews and research for the book that help? We covered hormone therapy, but other things that you eliminated, things that you started, changes in diet or other habits
Yeah.
that you found to be helpful during this chapter on this chapter of life on any of these topics.
Yeah, I mean, the exercise thing we talked about, I used to do a lot of jumping around classes and, things that felt a lot more fun, but and you can still do those to a point. I definitely am not at the front of the class anymore. I hang back at the very back and just try to keep up where I can. Um, but yeah, certainly I try to avoid too much sugar, although I do have a sweet tooth and but it can trigger headaches for me. And the same goes for alcohol. I haven't given it up completely, but I don't do well with sleep if I'm going to drink. So I save it for the nights that I really am going to desire a nice glass of wine with a great group of people or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anything that interferes with my sleep, I just try to moderate or reduce to a large degree.
Did you ever get a good concrete answer for why that is? Is that, I mean, that does feel like something that changes as you get older, that alcohol interfering with sleep is not so much an issue when we're younger, right? But it really does mess with you once you're in
It
menopause.
really does. I mean, I've just heard multiple doctors say that if you're choosing to drink, you're basically choosing not to sleep.
Not to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that does bear out, unfortunately. I
Yeah.
hate to I hate to say that out loud, but it's true. Yeah. Um, okay, what are you hearing from readers so far? I mean, people are obviously reading it. It's on the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah.
And I know you're like 50 events in, the book's been out a week. What are you hearing from readers?
Um, I've had some, lovely messages on Instagram DMs and things, and of people just saying thank you for helping me feel seen. And that is so meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
That just couldn't be better feedback. Yeah, we're only a week in, but some of those kind of messages. I've also been stopped on the street, not for the book per se, but because I've been doing, I've had the company Stripes Beauty, which
Mm-hmm.
offers hydration solutions from scalp to vag, because as we lose estrogen, we lose hydration. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I created this company and have since done a lot of advocacy work for menopause and been, sitting on panels and things like that for the last few years. So I've had women literally stop me in the street, and I think, oh gosh, I haven't got my lipstick on. I'm, not going to be good for a selfie. And it's not the selfie they're looking for. They, almost have tears in their eyes, and they say,
Mm.
thank you for giving me the language, the dialogue to
Yeah.
talk to my partner, because I didn't know how to say it, and things
Right.
were breaking down. And thank you for opening being part of opening the conversation.
Yeah. The vocabulary is huge, right?
Yeah, I guess so. And I mean, knowing how to communicate after all of this silence was not easy. But
Yeah.
and one of, I mean, I mentioned it before, the patch story that I go into, which I'll save the graphic detail for the reader, but it was a defining moment for me,
Mhm.
because we were about to get into business, and I remembered I had my patch on, so I had to excuse myself, and I went to the bathroom and was like, oh my God, trying to get it off. And if anyone's worn a patch, they'll know that it leaves a gummy, sticky mess.
Mhm.
And I just thought, there's no way this can be seen. This is so unsexy. I'm,
Mm.
calling myself out. And I was in there far too long. And I finally came out after he knocked and said, are you okay? And came out, and my face told him right away I was not okay.
Not okay.
And he said, what's going on? Are you not in the mood? And I said, no, well, here's the thing. It's just menopause. I just blurted it out. I'm in menopause, and I'm I get treatment, and I have to wear this patch, and I'm old. Should I just leave? And it was just like I was spewing out these words,
Yeah.
and
Right.
he was like, "Oh, wow. I'm so happy to hear you're getting treatment, and thank you for telling me. How can I help?" And
Yeah.
so that released so much fear and self-loathing and doubt and all of that in me, made me feel so comforted,
Yeah.
and it was sort of like a moment that made me realize that owning your vulnerabilities are actually leaning into your strengths, uh,
Mhm.
and it kind of gave me the confidence to go further with it, and that's why I
Yeah.
ended up creating Stripes Beauty, and then
I love that.
plucking up the nerve to write the book that I wanted 10 years prior.
Yeah. Well, to hear the part you're leaving out of that story is reason enough for everybody to here tonight to buy the book, because there's a line in there that's pretty golden.
It's a funny one.
Yeah. Well, that does kind of leave me wondering if you have men at any of your events, or if you ever hear from men
Do you
on
know
this
what?
topic.
Surprisingly, there's always like a minimum of a handful of these book events that
Hmm.
I've been doing. Um, for the symposiums, that's mainly women. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm always impressed with men that are curious and
Yeah.
are there to learn and empathize. Um, we really, it's our job to bring everyone into the conversation so they know what's going on. Mom's having a bad day.
Absolutely.
Shouldn't have slammed the door. I shouldn't have yelled, or,
Right.
but here's the thing. My hormones are, like this, just
Yeah.
like theirs are. And we have all the empathy in the world for them when they yell or roll their eyes, or, because we understand it. But
Right.
it's up to us to educate. And
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I think,
Demystify.
yeah,
Right. Hmm.
if you give them the information, they know where to stand. They know how to, you know, they know how to behave around it.
Right. Right. Well, and they love you, right? So they actually want to know what you're going through, and how to,
How to
if
support.
not, yeah, how to support, and if not help you, at least how to not make it harder.
Yes, exactly. And the same
Yeah.
goes for at work,
Yeah.
like we should be able to have the conversations with our bosses, and
Yeah.
this is a bad day for me right now. I'm not going to be able to pull that PowerPoint 20-man meeting in the best way. Can we just reschedule or something? I mean, I'm making this,
Right.
but
No, but you're exactly right, though. And it goes back to the earlier point about how we're so cultured to believe that we're just supposed to be in pain or we're just supposed to suffer in silence. And so it can be hard to even overcome that hurdle of like, deciding that you deserve to feel a little bit better. You deserve to pull back and rest for a second when you aren't feeling good. That feels a little bit indulgent or
yeah.
counterintuitive, I guess. Yeah. I, I think this is why I love chapter 15 so much. That was my favorite chapter. It was called What Does Family Look Like Now? And you actually include scripts in that chapter for talking to our kids and our partners about menopause. Talk about why you did that
Yeah.
and how you came up with the scripts. They're great.
Oh no, that was with the help of Dr. Elisa Pressman,
Okay.
who has a podcast called Raising Good Humans. And she is a family therapist, and it was important to me because, we're having kids much later these days, particularly in an urban environment. And we, that collision of hormones is taking place in the one household, where there's surging teenagers with their hormones, going through the roof, and yours are plummeting. So there needs to be an open dialogue. There needs to be a conversation where you explain what's going on with you, in order for some empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was important. I felt that was a good thing because it's taking place in so many households.
So many households. So you were born in the UK, right? And moved to Australia and
Yes.
then moved to the United States. Okay. What, if any, differences do you notice culturally in the willingness to have these kind of conversations, the way in which they are or aren't welcomed? Are there cultural differences in those three places or not so much?
I haven't, most of the work I've been doing is in America. I do think that the UK was ahead of the US in terms of the conversation being open, and US quickly caught up. When I was developing or pitching the idea of my company, I saw nothing really out there. And but yet I did see a few things going on in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave me confidence. And then, and in terms of Australia, I'd say they're on a par. It feels like everyone's synced up now, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any real differences. I do think in the UK there were greater numbers of people on HRT.
Hmm. Do you know why that is?
I don't. I mean, I would have to imagine it's about education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Um, so we went into this a tiny bit with the patch story, but the book gets pretty personal. You talk about, you talk about parenting quite a bit. You talk about the end of your relationship with the father of your kids. You talk about your marriage. I think it's, I think it's really generous when anyone goes into personal details about their lives in a book. I love it. I think it's brave and connects us. But I'm curious what led you to do that.
I didn't think there was any point unless I really kind of laid it all out there. I mean, I certainly had moments where I paused and went, "Can I say this?"
Mhm.
or "I won't say that," and then come back to it, and then see that it was a good idea to go deeper into it. I just
Mhm.
felt like, who am I to write a book on this if I'm not going to lean into every part of it? And so yeah, certainly at the very beginning of creating Stripes Beauty, we have clay oil and vaginal moisturizer at the beginning, plus other products from, you know, hair, skin, body. I didn't think that I would be talking so much about vaginal moisturizer,
Mhm.
but you can't
Happens.
do it. You can't not go there. It would be, it wouldn't make sense. So
Yeah,
I just had to throw myself into it,
yeah,
even if it was scary.
yeah. What was the biggest or most surprising thing you learned in the process of writing this book?
How charged the community is, and
Mm.
the women around me. Once the conversation has been opened, women do want to talk about it. They really do.
Yeah,
Just like they wanted to talk about their first period, their first kiss, you know, fertility, breastfeeding, pregnancy, all of it. We
yeah,
came together at every point. So why should we have been left alone at this point when it is such a major point in our lives? In a way,
right.
it's like it's such a and I never want to think of it as the end. It makes me so angry that we were sort of fed that message that
Yeah,
menopause was the marker of the end of your worth. Go to the
right,
and pull out your knitting needles. No, thank you.
right,
I've got lots of energy.
right.
You know, all kinds of women running companies, and you know, they're doing such major things, and it's
Yeah,
actually the right time to take a risk on yourself, to back yourself like we did in our 20s, but that was
yeah,
just so naive. That was spaghetti at the wall. We didn't know what we
right,
were doing. We just do it anyway. But now
right.
we've been through enough experiences that we can live with failure. We can move through it. And so what if it doesn't work out? Why don't we just try anyway?
Yeah. Was it a doctor or a friend of yours? Someone in the book said, I don't ever want to hear menopause described as the end of your fertility ever again, because there's so many ways to be fertile, right? It doesn't just have to mean bearing children.
It was a doctor that said it to a friend. And yeah, to reframe the thinking that that is not everything for us, reproducing. Um, there are many ways to feel fertile. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought that
yeah,
was a thing to
I
say.
love that. Yeah, I love that. I also loved the friend's email that you included, who said, I wrote this down, toleration was yesterday's theme. Today, I was reborn and optimistic about my new chapter, maybe not yet repaired or redeemed, but healing would come. I think toleration was yesterday's theme is it's such like a rally cry almost, right?
Yeah. Again, speaking to, we expect to suffer, we accept
Right.
that pain is part of it. And I think,
Just tolerate it.
yeah, just just move through. But I think, yeah, that this marks a time where you want to invest in yourself a bit more.
Yeah. What do you say to women watching tonight or women who will read your book? Men too, anyone uh, who feels shame around these topics, because that's real, especially if it was part of how you were raised, even if it's changing in the culture, if that's foundational to you, that's hard to break. So what would you say to help someone move past that and sort of open up you know, their way of thinking to what we're talking about tonight if they feel shame around their body, around what their body's going through, around what their partner's body is going through?
Yeah, I feel like shame starts early, and one of the doctors says there's not much in a woman's life that shame doesn't touch. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it you know, starting with our periods
Mm-hmm.
um, and body parts, comparisons. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Um, you know, I think getting to this age where you feel like it's just too exhausting to carry all of that, the shame being the biggest piece, just leaning into owning what your vulnerabilities are and sharing them, and like identifying them, naming them and sharing them, I say, so that you get closer to, you know, dissolving them, and having the people around you understand and, like you said, support and not make you feel worse about them.
Right.
Just really leaning into it. And I feel like it took a while. It definitely took a while, but there was such a release that came with it, of owning this piece of my story, particularly in my industry. And it's ended up being an incredibly empowering part of my life, you know, in a way that the community that I've gathered, through meeting the doctors, through meeting women on the street, through meeting, you know, talking to my friends, sharing it all. I feel like it's created a sense of purpose in a way I didn't expect. So yeah, be done with shame.
Yeah, definitely. Remind me your kids' ages now.
17 and 16.
Okay. And you must be talking to them about this, right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they've been hearing me on Zooms talk about menopause for far too many years. And I say in the book, that there's, you know, there was a moment where I was like, I wonder if how much they know, having listened, or overheard the word menopause multiple times. And they said, I said, what do you know what it is? And one of them said, isn't it when old ladies die? And was like, no, okay. And the next one said, oh, mommy, isn't that when you wet the bed? And it's not wetting the bed with urine. It was
Right.
wet, you know, obviously
Yeah.
bed with them. And so yeah, the education needs to start. Probably sex ed, you know, when they talk about this is what happens in the hormonal journey. You start with your periods, then there's all these things that can happen in between, STDs, pregnancies, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And this is the bookend to that hormonal journey. And it's all completely normal.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we want to pretty quickly get to audience questions because we got dozens and dozens submitted. People are really, really eager to ask their questions of you. But I wonder, what about the book or the process of writing the book, your conversations since the book's been launched, that you wanna talk about that I haven't asked about yet?
Oh gosh. I would just say that, you know, I just want people to feel seen and know that this is not the end. We're not invisible. My mum spoke about feeling invisible. I remember that. And now being at this age, I really relate to what she said, but of course I was a teenager, had no
Yeah.
understanding when she had said that. Or maybe I was later than a teenager, maybe I was in my 20s, but yeah, I think I really just want people to feel like this story is going to fill them with hope and agency, taking agency over this time through getting educated. And, you know, I go into the HRT thing as much as possible. But there's more out there, obviously, more from your doctors. And then, yeah, just helping them see that other people having these stories will hopefully make them feel less alone.
Well, I certainly felt less alone reading the book, so thank you.
And also, thank you for saying that. Yeah, there's a good laugh to be had, I think. You know, there is despair and there is pain, but it's not all gloom and doom. There's a way to have a laugh through it.
Yeah.
Just the familiarity of, oh my God, I know that moment so well. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, are you ready to tackle some audience questions?
Sure.
Okay, you need a breather, you need some water, you need
Just have a sip, yeah.
to do a little stretch.
Let's do it.
All right, good. You should be drinking champagne. You're on the bestsellers list.
Thank you.
Maybe after the Zoom. What is it, 9 o'clock in New York?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, at 9:30, I hope you're popping champagne. Okay, so this is from a woman named Heather in New Mexico. I think we sort of touched on this, but I want to ask it again anyway because I want to make sure that we were clear. Heather wants to know, how do you know when you're going through perimenopause? I did a test at the doctor, and all they could say was one of my hormones was on the low side, but I was still fertile. Then I read that there is no test that can tell you if you're perimenopausal.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what happened to me. When I had that first blood test taken, and I only had it because I was trying to get pregnant, and wasn't getting pregnant. And the hormone levels suggested I was close to menopause, but then he also asked me about all my symptoms. So I had those other things to report, the night sweats and the migraines and the irregular periods. Periods were coming too close together. So you really got to go through all of those symptoms and explain those to your doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can still be fertile. You can still, I mean, we've heard so many times about those menopausal babies.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially if some of those symptoms are out of the blue, right? I suppose if you've had migraines your whole life, maybe that's not necessarily a trigger to talk to your doctor about menopause. But if all of a sudden you have them, right? If it's all of a sudden something that hasn't been part of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
Any tips for staying asleep? I can fall asleep, but I wake up several times every night. So we discussed alcohol, but other than avoiding alcohol, tips for staying asleep.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wind down at the end of the day if I can with a bath almost nightly. Um, it just decompresses me. I just love being in hot, steaming water. Um, Obviously, eating really early now. I really don't like eating 8:30, 9:30 like I used to. Now I eat with the kids at 6. Um, they say having at least 2 or 3 hours before bedtime to digest the food is the healthiest way to do it. And obviously the same with alcohol. I try to stop drinking water after a certain hour because I don't want to have to get up and pee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are sleep aids for times where you really need some extra support. If you've got a big thing the next day or you need to guarantee a certain number of hours, I've definitely used different sleep aids.
Like a melatonin or more of a
Like a melatonin,
stronger.
like a Tylenol PM, or even, at times I've even used, I don't like to, but I've used other, like a Xanax or, but I prefer not to. Benadryl,
Mm-hmm.
one I've used.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Another question, could you please talk about any supplements that you take? I mean, I know certainly on all of my social feeds, and this is going to reveal my algorithms probably, but I'm always getting, I'm always getting these like, all natural supplements advertised to me that are going to fix all of my symptoms. And it's usually some combination of like turmeric and collagen or something. Do you take any of those and have any luck with any of them?
I have a funny thing with supplements. I go on them and off them, and I tend to find taking too many pills annoying. So I usually only use them if I'm feeling off balance to correct
Mm-hmm.
the situation. Um, but I do, I try to eat a very healthy diet. I eat tons of greens. I eat, like pickled things, keep my gut in a healthy way, and drink kombucha,
Mm-hmm.
which I love. Occasionally a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, seaweed and things like that. I try to eat. So I get a lot from my diet.
Mm-hmm.
We yeah, I just find it hard to sustain with supplements.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, I'm finding through friends that even the doctors who prescribe hormones do it differently. Some are doing a patch and oral, some are doing creams, some say daily, some are saying 3 times a week. How do we know what's accurate with dosages and frequency without any standardization?
Again, you've got to talk to your doctor and trial and error. I mean, like I said, I went through different delivery methods myself. Estrogen cream is pretty safe for everyone as far as
Mm-hmm.
I understand it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember after having my second baby, my doctor gave it to me. It's been a game changer for me, that one in particular, because when you lose estrogen, things change down there.
Yeah.
And you can get UTIs very easily. And I had pretty chronic UTIs, which was very, very uncomfortable. And I was not getting properly diagnosed. I was taking so many antibiotics, different kinds that were causing resistance to another kind, it was not working. And I ended up with terrible gastro problems. And so,
From
yeah,
all the antibiotics.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that can really start a vicious cycle, right? You're fixing the thing that you were taking to fix the thing that's now creating the new
Yeah.
problem.
So while I
Yeah.
while I say that, estrogen is not a silver bullet, I do strongly recommend vaginal estrogen cream.
Yeah. And that I do feel like from reading in your book, that is considered safe for folks
Yeah,
who may
every
not be
doctor.
able to take the oral kind, right? Because it doesn't absorb in your body in the same
Exactly.
way. Okay. So that might be something good for people to go ahead and ask their doctors about if they are looking for a starting point.
Yeah, and if you don't want, I mean, you can use it daily, but if you don't want to use it because it can be a bit messy, you can use a Vagivana moisturizer, which is not messy.
Okay. Say the name again because it's an amazing name.
Vagivana.
Of
On
honor.
the
Yeah. Love it. Okay. Did you experience a night and day type of shift in your body where it's just not yours anymore? I went from being a healthy, calm, collected, and level headed person with my depression under control to a basket case full of anxiety. Is this normal?
I think it is because you don't know what's going on with your body, and the not knowing, having to jump to conclusions and piecemeal all of that information is very hard. But I think with all of the work that's been going on in the last few years, with opening the conversation, with educating the community and doctors, I think that time period for women now is going to be very short-lived. For me, it was large part of almost a decade, where I felt like I didn't know what was going on with my body. I didn't know, how to solve it. And so I really was spinning in circles. But for now I think because everyone spoke up, and now doctors are used to hearing their patients come in and saying, I'm not feeling right and I'm having this symptom, this one, and this one. I think it's gonna get to a solution point very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Could you share your thoughts on testosterone replacement for sex drive specifically?
Yeah, so it's not FDA approved, but it is said to help lift libido. I went on it very early on well, not very early on, but like probably 5 years ago, I first tried it and I did not like the feeling. Made me feel a bit like that. Maybe the dose was not right for me. I pretty much went off it right away. And I came back to it recently. And it's been successful for me. I feel like it's helping. Yeah, they've got to get to the point where it's approved by the FDA for people to really endorse it. But I think if you're having trouble with libido, it's a good solve.
Is it oral or topical or a shot or
There are
for
different ways.
women? How's it?
Creams, and I take drops.
Mm.
Yeah. But you've got to get the dosage right, and you've got to have the right conversation with your doctor, because there's a terrible story in the book about a friend whose dosage went way, way, way wrong, and she ended up like almost losing her mind and
Mhm.
marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you definitely need good guidance.
Yeah. How can I handle weight gain? I'm on hormone replacement therapy. And how do I monitor? Oh, this is a few questions rolled into one. Let's start with how do I handle weight gain?
I think, I mean, mercifully for me, weight gain, I've remained the same weight most of my life. I can fluctuate 5 to 7 pounds. I did have that was a different story in my teenage years. I did have a big sudden expansion. That was probably another hormonal time. But I feel like distribution changes definitely around, the middle section.
Mm.
And for me, the friends around me are all, really trying to adjust their exercise regime and keep a healthy diet. I know there's other things available right now that people have had great success with. If that's your choice, so be it. I think that has created quality of life for some people that they really
Mhm.
needed.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think just diet and exercise
Mhm.
remain.
Does everyone experience hot flashes?
Not everyone, actually. And I only ever, well, I did get on HRT pretty early on, but I only experienced a handful of them. Mine came at night, and sometimes all night long. But yeah, they are just one of the many symptoms that can be enjoyed. Yeah, but they can lead to other issues. So,
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. I actually wanted to talk more about that because that was an interesting part of the book to me. First of all, that not everyone gets them. But second of all, that they're not sort of something to just sort of suffer through because they really can, there's risk factors
yeah, they
associated
can
with them,
lead
right?
to anxiety and depression and, heart palpitations. And
Mm-hmm.
the doctors say, yeah, if you're getting them a lot, then they really should be considered for treatment, because they can lead to other things.
Mm-hmm. Um, Another hot flashes question. Will my hot flashes ever end? It's been 4 years. So do they go away on their own?
I
Or?
mean, I've got a friend who is just a bit older than me, and she's been having them for 10 years.
Oh,
if it doesn't want to get treatment. So yeah.
yeah. Is there an average length of
Well, they
number of
say
years that they?
2 to 7 is the median, but they can go on as long as 10.
Wow. Okay. That's a
So
long time. That's like your whole high school and college career
yeah.
combined,
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, the thing is that the menopause years are really with us for a third of our lives, if not more. Um, and symptoms can exist, come and go for that long, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know that actually. I don't know that you'll have hot flashes into your 80s. I doubt that. But um but I know that certain things. I mean, I even with treatment I had frozen shoulder, which took me by surprise um
Mm-hmm.
just in the last couple of years. And
Mm-hmm.
I suffered through it for a good year because people said that it'll go away eventually, and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
going away. And I couldn't do up my bra strap. I couldn't. It was hard to wash my hair. Um, but and it was also incredibly painful when you sleep because I sleep on my side. Uh,
Yeah.
and eventually, I went and got a cortisone shot, which
Yeah.
was really helpful, even though it wasn't, what I wanted to do. But I eventually, after a good year of having it, just thought I'm going to try it, and it did go away for a good few months. I felt it coming back, but then I started like hardcore. I was doing the PT, all of the exercises, like putting a band behind your back and over back and front.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Just explain what frozen shoulder is. I know it sounds sort of self-explanatory, but I've heard several people refer to that, and I know throughout the book too.
So it's again, a loss of hydration um, creates like a swelling, and capsulitis, it's called, is the medical term. And you just need motion. You need fluid in there to create the motion. And when the fluid is dissipating, it's hard to get the motion going. And when you stop the motion because it's locked, it just kind of feeds itself, it just gets worse and worse. So having the cortisone shot gave me a break from, the pain. I was able to, suddenly move it again
Move
and
it.
then start the
Okay.
hardcore PT. Um, and then it's somehow corrected itself.
Okay. Um, do the symptoms tend to all come on at once or spread throughout over the course of a few years?
Well, for me, I had first the night sweats, I would say, and then migraines. I just had the shoulder thing in the last 2 years. Um, and the memory stuff definitely seems to hold on. But the brain fog, um, yeah, I think they come at different times. But yeah, I would say it's different. It's never a one size fits all. It just
Hmm.
depends on the person. And I also
Yeah.
had heart palpitations. I mean, tinnitus is another one.
Mm.
Sometimes have this thing where I just like feel like there's something in my ear and I just had to itch it. But then
Yeah.
the dry skin, that was another thing that led me to this. I was on camera every single day, under hot lights, and my skin was so itchy and raging and dry and sensitive and reactive. I'd come home after taking off the makeup at work and it was just red raw. I went to the dermatologist, and again, not knowing about menopause or it being connected to menopause, I was sent away with a cortisone cream, which worked for a few days, but it didn't last much longer than that. So I was in this loop, and I had to change the skincare routine that I had been using for years. And then it was not only not working for me anymore, it was causing disruption. So I had to change all the ingredients. And that kind of led me to creating the brand Stripes Beauty.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want gentler ingredients, super hydrating, nothing that's stripping or drying, and just ultra hydrating from scalp to vag.
Why why is everything so dry? Where's all the moisture go?
Well, that's
Where did it go?
losing estrogen, we lose moisture. Yeah. The
That's a
skin
setup.
gets thinner, grayer. I mean, yeah, this is all sounding so depressing for.
All right, I'm going to try to
But
find a
there are
non-depressing question.
solutions. You've
These are
just
good
got to get.
questions. That's
got,
right. There you
there are
go. Yeah.
solutions, and there
Turn it around. There are solutions.
yeah, and you just got to get organized and put some effort into it.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Is it true that menopause slows your metabolism?
I would say yes. I'm again not a doctor, but I think that is probably why it leads to weight gain for a lot of people. But that's why I say exercise. Just try and exercise. If you can't do a class, so just walk. Lots of walking. Walk. And moving around is and not just for the benefits of keeping muscles or looking good. For me,
Yeah.
it's for my mind. It's to
Yeah.
clear my mind. It's everything for mood, I think.
Yeah. Bunch of questions about brain fog. This one I like. What do you do about brain fog when your doctors just brush it aside?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there's nothing really they can do if you're not, if HRT is not your choice or safe for you. I feel like it's down to your doctor just having empathy
Yeah.
and great bedside manner and just hearing you. For me, I say stay involved in learning new things, even if
Yeah.
you suck at them, whether it's
Mhm.
playing cards or learning to
Mhm.
crochet. Um,
Wordle, right?
Wordle. I'm
Stuff like that.
obsessed with Wordle. And they say multitasking is a good thing.
Hmm.
Taking on, like lots of things at one time, even though we're told all the time to just focus and be present, which is
Right.
important. But it's
Well, it's
a
important, but it's a joke. I mean, find me a woman who can get away without multitasking.
exactly.
Okay. Doesn't exist. Okay, so multitasking is good for brain fog.
I mean, it makes sense.
Okay, I like it. Okay, have you tried any wearables like an Aura ring to help with sleep? And
Yes,
if yes, what was your experience?
I was really obsessed with it. I ended up losing it and haven't yet replaced it.
Oh.
But yeah, that and my Wordle were my two favorite things to look at in the morning.
Yeah. And it tells you how many hours you slept, the quality of your sleep.
Quality of your sleep, yeah. And you
Okay.
get, you can see the little spikes that show that you were either stressing in your dreams or, it did make me depressed sometimes because I would discover that I was a very light sleeper.
Right. I feel like I would just
Very-
start my day feeling like a loser, like I failed at sleep.
yeah.
It doesn't.
I was basically, because they break it down into deep sleep, REM, and then light. And I was getting less than an hour of deep sleep most nights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess knowledge is good though, right?
Yeah, knowledge is it's interesting because then you can say, okay, well, I did have that glass of wine too late.
Look for patterns.
Yeah,
Got it.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we're back to moisture. Any tips for very dry eyes. I use eye drops, but still really have the problem, which my doctor attributes to menopause.
Yeah, well, I like that your doctor is,
Because
yeah.
your doctor's talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with the doctor, and I definitely find myself doing this for at periods of time over and over again. I try not to use eye drops because I think they can cause, a cycle of, needing them and dependence. And so, but I know there are some that are specifically just for hydration, which, yeah, if you need it, do it. Sometimes for me at work, when I've got makeup on, I have to do it. I have to resort to it, but I try not to use it all the time.
Can you recommend a skincare regimen for acne and wrinkles?
Well, I think, I'm going to get pluggy here because I have a skin brand.
Mhm.
We have two ingredients in most of our products, which is squalane and ectoin, and it is a combination of two very active ingredients that create moisture and lock it in. So, we've got the Power Move, which is a fantastic serum to wear underneath a moisturizer, and it's one of our best sellers. People love it. It's really great for sensitive skin, for the irritations that I was talking about, and obviously dryness. And then there's a day moisturizer, which is a lighter one. And then we have the evening wear, which is a much heavier one. And I actually use it now in the winter months, in the day as well, because I need that extra boost. And when you're going in and out of heated rooms, I don't, I can easily drink up the moisture, and it's too early in the day. So I use it in the daytime as well. Yeah, and they're designed to deal with not just a lack of moisture, but also irritations.
Actually, yeah, there's a comment here helpful. What people think is dry eye is really something different, which is just wiping the eyelids near the edge of the eyelid. Microscopic flakes of skin get in the eye and feel like dry eye. A couple of times a week, I wipe the edges of my eye and have no issues anymore. So thank you for that. Okay, what are your thoughts on pro or prebiotics?
Again, I like to rely on diet as much as possible for those, like the leafy greens and the you know pickles and kimchi and all of those things. I There are good probiotics out there, and I do think they can be helpful. I've used them for corrective situations, but I try to stay on the regular with the diet. And then if something's off, like I've taken antibiotics, then I will resort
Right,
to probiotic
right. Oh, okay. Yeah, a little extra to replace the
boost.
stuff
Yeah.
in your gut. Okay, I'm 48. I believe I'm perimenopausal. I love my OBGYN that is male, and I've seen him forever, but I don't think he's trained on menopause. There's an 80% chance he's not. I also love my general practitioner. That really stuck with me. I also love my general practitioner, who's a woman, approximately 60. Last time I saw her for a regular quick checkup, I didn't think to bring it up because the signs weren't there, but it felt odd after the fact that it didn't come up. Do I need to consider tossing all the years I've spent with them and switch to someone else? I'd hate to have to do that. It's a really good question. I think a lot of people can relate to this.
Yeah. I don't think you have to give up on them, but if they gatekeep, if you go back with those questions and they don't have an understanding of what you're going through, then yes, bring somebody new into the picture. But I would try first, if you've had a decent relationship and a long one, and they know your medical history so well, trying to figure it out with them, one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the
So
truth is,
not the fact that they didn't bring it up doesn't necessarily raise red flags for you. It could be that we need to be more proactive about going into the appointments ready to ask those questions, bring it up, press it a little bit.
I do think so. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is crazy, but not only are doctors not educated, I think there's probably a fear of them bringing it up and insulting a woman. You know,
Well,
that's,
that's a really good point.
you know, maybe they think they don't want to hear that. And also, you know, those doctor appointments, they're so short.
Yeah.
If you say the wrong thing, you can imagine. I mean, I empathize with these doctors. You could end up with like a much bigger problem on your hands. Like, oh God, the messenger, you know, like, this is going to get emotional or complicated, or, you know, the time is so limited. So that's why I say just go in with a script, go in with, you know, exactly what you need to get out of that appointment.
Yeah. I think that's really, really good advice and such a good point about maybe they're not bringing it up because they don't want to insult you. Lonnie, can I ask one more question or no? Am I cut off?
No, you're at 8:27. Go ahead.
Okay, final question because I love this one from Rick, our hero Rick. How can men be more supportive during menopause and perimenopause?
Oh, I love that question, Rick. Yeah, I think to ask the women around you how you can help, you know, whether that's your wife, your partner, or sister, someone you work with. Just curiosity and empathy, lead with those. If they're not telling you anything, investigate, but not too much, you know, to just read the room and see what she's willing to share. And just tell her you're there for her. I think that's basically what my husband did. I mean, I obviously told him a lot, and he was instantly there for me. But yeah, if she's given you enough nuggets of information, try to just be there for her in ways that she definitely needs you.
Mm. Thanks for what a great tone to end on that. I was thinking also about like in households, like having open conversations, being able, as your kids turn into teenagers and young adults, while they see both the openness of the communication and the support, that it doesn't have to be a topic that persists in some kind of shame or silence, you know. I think it's also great modeling for kids, of course.
Yeah, if they don't have the information, they're going to make things up, you know.
Exactly.
Right.
History exists. They're just going, you know, think maybe they're the problem, or try to do something that then the partner's not ready for, you know, like mystery should just be taken out of the picture. And
Right. All right, we're at 8:30 exactly. Naomi, thank you so much for spending time with FAN during Pub Week. We really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure getting to know you a little bit more and hearing more about your stories. I do appreciate how you stay in the lane. You don't pretend to be Dr. Marcus Welby, so we do appreciate that. I want to encourage people also to visit the Stripes Beauty website. There's tons of great resources there. We're doing a book giveaway, but we've had more people on the Zoom than we have books for. So go buy the book. Help keep that book on the bestseller list for another few weeks. Why not? Heidi, thank you as always for your interview and your preparation for tonight. We really do appreciate it. We'll be sending emails within the next couple of days to folks who are beginning to be receiving a book. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you for joining us tonight. Really, really appreciate it. And celebrate, Naomi. Have some fun, whatever way you celebrate. Go ahead.
Pop the champagne. Thanks, Lonnie.
so much for having me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Hope to welcome you back. Thank you.